So once again, Manchester United controlled the ball for large parts of this game, but failed to take their chances when they came, which left them vulnerable to Maguire's routinely mistake in the back line that eventually cost them all 3 points. I'm going to be analysing how I thought United actually played pretty well in the first half, before I talk about ultimately what went wrong in the second half. But before I get into that, for cheap good quality football jerseys, retro jerseys and tracksuits, go over to www.jerseyfifa.com. I myself have bought a number of different jerseys from Jersey FIFA, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 03-04 shirt from Ronaldo's first season with his name on the back. So if you want a shirt like this from Jersey FIFA, click the link in the description below and use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL at checkout to get 5% off. So going into the game, United used their 4-2-3-1 system, with Burnley using a 3-2-4-1. Only joking, of course they used a 4-4-2. In possession, United would move into their 2-4-3-1 shape as expected, with Burnley sitting narrow and compact in their 4-4-2 shape. Like against Middlesbrough, which I did do a video on and will be linked in the description, United were up against a Burnley side who were content to sit passively, with the front two given a job of cutting the passing lanes into McTominay and Pogba, rather than aggressively pressing the centre-backs. Now against a 4-4-2 shape like Burnley's, there are different approaches you can take to breaking them down. You want to disrupt the rigid 4-4-2 shape, creating space in the centre and in between the lines of the system, and you can do this through the movement of your own players when in possession. See, the Burnley wide midfielders McNeil and Cornet are going to track the movements of the fullbacks, so if Shaw and Dalot push forward down the flank, they can drag the wide midfielder on their side deep, pushing Burnley into a back five, and from here United would create space wide of Burnley's midfield, and they can drop into a back three in possession, giving them a wider base to then circulate the ball around Burnley's front two, and opening up an avenue to progress the ball into Burnley's half, and then obviously then into the final third. And we did see Ranić using the movement of his fullbacks to create this space between Burnley's midfield line, however it was most prominent with the fullbacks remaining deep, rather than pushing forward. Here we see Dalot retaining a deep position in the middle third, creating a temporary back three with Maguire and Varane, in a similar way to how we see Pep use Kyle Walker in possession, and this was done in order to draw Cornet out of that midfield line, creating space in behind him for then someone ahead to potentially move into. Now despite the poor result at the end, I thought United played pretty well in possession in the first half, dominating the game, and the XG charts do show this. Going into half-time, United had recorded an XG of 1.24, with Burnley having an XG of 0. The jammy bastards. Against West Ham at half-time, that was just 0.24, and a lot of this creative improvement came down to Paul Pogba, coming back into the side in central midfield alongside McTominay. Not only did he score the goal, which I will analyse in a bit, but he also aided United's ball progression from deeper positions. See, the problem with Fred and McTominay, as I've said 783,494 times, is that they lack vision and passing ability to consistently be able to break the lines of the opposition system, moving the ball in between the lines or into the final third, and Pogba drastically improves United's ability to do this. However, I thought it was Bruno Fernandes in this game in particular who was United's main catalyst for progressing the attacks forward on the counter, and a great example of this was Pogba's goal. So from De Gea's kick, you can see that Rashford and Sancho are positioned high and wide, and this is to provide outlets for United to play a direct pass out to the flanks. The ball gets headed up in the air, and Fernandes, rather than bringing the ball down with a touch, shows why he's a top level player by volleying the ball first time out to Rashford, who's then able to isolate Roberts, the right back, in a 1v1 situation, but the real opportunity is made by Shaw's overlapping run, which is exactly the type of movement that United had been lacking in the first half of the season. The run is timed perfectly, and so is Rashford's pass down the side, and Shaw puts in an excellent cutback, and Pogba proves he's worth with a fantastic first time finish into the top of the net. Now this was a great example of how United have improved their offensive output down the flanks under Ranić, and it was Shaw's deeper positioning in that move that allowed this to happen, as if he had pushed further forward as I showed in a previous example, this would have drawn McNeil backwards, condensing the space for Rashford to then create that 1v1. However, with Shaw deep, the 1v1 can be created, and then he can make a later, powerful run to create the crossing opportunity. So this goal shows how by keeping certain players deep, you can actually open up more opportunities for players ahead. Now the reason Burnley struggled to create anything at all in the first half is because United did well to block off one of their main ways of progressing the ball forward. Burnley like to move the ball to their fullbacks or into one of the central midfielders before looking to play a direct vertical ball into one of their centre forwards. In the first part of the season, season that was Chris Wood, but after he went to Newcastle, Burnley brought in almost an exact clone of Chris Wood. It's like they needed to cast an actor to play Chris Wood in a movie, and so they went out and got Wout Weghorst. However, the Dutchman didn't have much joy in the first half, as Rangnick had instructed McTominay to drop back slightly deeper when Burnley had possession in deeper positions, which would allow him to intercept long balls, preventing Burnley from progressing the ball up the pitch into Weghorst. So going into half-time, it did look like United had control of the game, but it turns out they had as much control as Lukaku playing in wellies. So within literally 2 minutes of the second half starting, United concede. The ball arrives at the feet of Brownhill in the middle third, and the first mistake comes from McTominay. He has to move across quicker to close the gap between him and Pogba and carve that passing lane into Weghorst. He doesn't do this and the ball ends up at Weghorst's feet, but United are still in a good position. He's moving away with his back to goal, with Maguire close behind and McTominay coming in from the front. All Maguire has to do is hold his ground and stop Weghorst from turning. Oh dear, Weghorst has turned and Maguire's now behind him and Varane's in a dilemma. The pass to Rodriguez from Weghorst is good, but if Varane is in Maguire's position, I think he's able to use his pace to recover and get in front of Rodriguez. However, Maguire is slower than Gandhi running through sand, and Rodriguez plods into a one-on-one position and finishes neatly past De Gea, and now United are level. Even though United should have been 2 or 3 up in the first half, with the own goal being unluckily disallowed and both Cavani and Rashford missing chances, this is a great example of a side's defence being only as good as their weakest link. Maguire this season has made more mistakes than a dyslexic kid in a spelling test. He's terribly slow, but it's his overall defending ability that sees him getting caught out. United's backline of Varane, Shaw and Dalot seems pretty good to me, from both an offensive and defensive point of view, but Maguire is a weak link and I'd rather see Bailly or Lindelof in that position. Dalot and Shaw were excellent in this game, with Shaw maybe even being the man of the match, being a creative force when he's over or underlapping down the left side, and Dalot didn't do this as much as Shaw, but his forward passing ability was what really impressed me. There was a number of times when he was able to receive the ball in deeper positions, and then was able to release Rashford or Sancho in behind the Burnley back line, and it's this type of creativity that United had desperately lacked when Wan-Bissaka was starting at right back. But United still had 45 minutes to regain the lead, but it seemed like they were caught out by Burnley's change of pace in the second half. Burnley's midfield were more aggressive and more assertive when stepping out to win the ball from the midfield line than they had been in the first half, and this led to them being able to win the ball back, move it into the front four and having players racing forward to join the attack. It's these type of situations where United need an elite level ball winner in central midfield, able to dominate those 50-50 duels or loose balls, as we know Pogba isn't that kind of player, but neither is McTominay, who's much more of a box-to-box midfielder than a player who's going to sit deep behind the play and act as a player to put out fires when the opposition breaks forward. I did suggest a couple of options in my video looking at the ball-winning central midfielder that Manchester United should sign. That was a part of a full series looking at who United should sign in the summer. I'll leave all those videos linked in the description below. In the second half, United only recorded an XG of 0.59, with Burnley recording a higher XG for the second half with 0.77, showing that this was very much a game of two halves. United seemed fatigued and fell out of their rhythm. Shaw was no longer able to provide the forward runs beyond Sancho as much, and as a result, the Burnley defenders weren't being dragged away, with the knock-on effect being that Sancho and Rashford now had less space to drive into, which shows just how important a seemingly minor thing like a constant overlapping run from a fullback can be for a side's attack, and this has been the main reason why United's right hand side has been so poor with Wan-Bissaka at right back. Ronaldo came on, but it was too late for him to affect the game, and but for a header he didn't have any great opportunities, and overall this was a typical game where United lacked the character to pull through. They need to be a lot more decisive when the chances come, but equally the backline and midfield, Maguire in particular, need to cut out these errors, as it seems to be a regular occurring thing game to game, and if United are only 1-0 up but still dominating the game, there's still the possibility of dropping points, with players like Maguire and even McTominay to an extent in that starting 11. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, check out some of my other Manchester United videos, which will be my Manchester United playlist, and some non-Manchester United videos will also be linked below. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell, and put your thoughts in the comment section below too.